Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Elizabeth Cohen, and I'm going to be your instructor for this class, COMM 205, Appreciation of the Motion Picture, or is it Motion Pictures plural? I don't know. It's film appreciation. So I am a professor of communication studies, and I study media psychology, actually, and I also, when I was an undergraduate, studied film, and I love teaching this class. I'm excited about having you. The reason we are not meeting in person, however, is because as much as I love my students, I get really annoyed on the first week of class when, there's a bunch of people who show up like good students and they've been registered for like 3 months and they're like, yay, I'm here. Tell me about the syllabus and everything. And then there's some other students who don't show up because they're like, it's just syllabus day and who cares? And then there's like other students that don't even add the class until like the next week. And then those students like end up coming to me and they're just like, hey, what did I miss? And I'm like, this is stupid because like these other students had to show up. And so I've decided that instead of trying to do syllabus day in person, if I just post a video online with all of the stuff I would have done on syllabus day, then anybody can watch it at any time. You can even watch it later in the semester. You can rewind, you can watch it as many times as you want. So let me go ahead. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share my screen, pull up a Oh, maybe I will. Hold on. Where's my little PowerPoint now? Oh, that's not the right one. Hold on. Well, this is just, oh, okay, here we go. All right. Let me just pop her up here. So what I'm going to do is just go over the highlights of the syllabus. Ooh, let me do a full screen for you. Yeah, that's pretty. I'm going to do a highlight of the syllabus so you have an idea of what's going on. You're going to have to take a syllabus quiz after this, so this will like kind of help you like narrow in on the answers. And then I'm going to do a short lecture, which just sort of like gives you an idea of like why it's called motion picture appreciation and what that means. Um, all right, so as I mentioned, I am a professor of communication studies. I'm a media psychologist, which basically means I study, I do research on how watching things like movies, but also using social media and things like affects people's social lives and their psychology and how they think about the world and things like that. I have been a professor here at WVU since 2012. I really love living here. Really happy I'm here. I never want to leave. And I am at my home right now where I have a bunch of animals. And I also love being at my home and I love my animals. I've got a cat somewhere around here. I've got, see if we can like two pugs on the ground there. Out there, you can see I got a little chicken coop and I don't think you can see I got a big old dog named Jolene who watches the chickens. And so when I can, I like to be at home. I actually do my best work at home. But I do come to campus, and so that's a great segue. I do come to campus very often, and I even have office hours. What office hours are, for those of you who don't know, which I used to think everybody did, but times are changing. And office hours, in my opinion, they are a little archaic. They are from a time even before email when you just didn't know when you were going to be able to find your professor. So, like, they would have office hours so that you could find them and have a conversation with them, and you knew that they were going to be in their office that time so that you could, like, grab them. Um, and I get it. And I know that some professors are really hard to find. I am not. Although I like to spend a lot of time at my house, I check my email very regularly. Less on the weekends, but still regularly. And I also am really good about trying to work with people to set up appointments. So I don't want you to think of these office hours as like the only time that you can meet with me. As a matter of fact, one of the things I hate about office hours is like if everybody comes during my office hours, then some people have to wait while I meet with somebody else. So I would ask, even if you're coming during my office hours, please give me an email ahead of time so that, if somebody else says that they're coming, I can be like, hey, hold off on for 15 minutes or whatever the case is. But just to reiterate, if you email me, we can figure out some time to meet that would work with your schedule, whether it's in my office hours or not, whether it's on Zoom or whatever, we can figure it out. So, just know that I'm weird about office hours. Okay, materials for this course. What do you need? Well, I have good news for you. You don't have to spend any money for this course. The textbook that I've adopted is what we call an open educational resource. It's available online. Um, Another piece of good news for some of you, unless you like to read, although nobody's stopping you, is I don't really require you to read for this class. I use the syllabus to set up a lot of the lectures in this class. So if you want more information on any of the topics, then you can go to the textbook and find out that information. Um, but it's not like there are no exams in this class. I'll show you that in a second. You're not going to be tested over anything in the textbook. Basically everything you need for this class, almost everything you need for this class is stuff that's going to come out of my lecture. So you don't need to go elsewhere for it. Um, the other thing is we are going to be watching films in this class, but I like to do the screenings in class. There's a lot of reasons for that. I'm kind of old school, and I think there's something nice about a group of people watching something together. But also, I'm kind of new school in that, like, I don't trust people to actually watch things on their own sometimes. So I feel like if we have like a required viewing in class, it's better in that way. So it works on a couple levels. But um, let's say even you come to the screenings that we have in class and you watch the films and maybe you want to go and rewatch them. They're on course reserves too. So you're able to watch the materials in this class. You don't need any sort of subscriptions to any streaming services or anything like that. So good news, it's really cheap. You do, I should have mentioned this, but I guess I like take it for granted. Checking eCampus is really important in this class. I post announcements there. I post any sort of supplemental readings or the syllabus is on there. Honestly, this video should be on there. So maybe you're halfway there. That's great. But do try to check eCampus regularly, just in case, I don't know, I have there's snow and hail coming down and I cancel class or something like that. You just check eCampus. Um, Okay, so here is this is the overall structure of the grade, and it gives you an idea of like how this course is going to roll. Um, so even though we're not meeting in person this week, there are actually three assignments that you need to do this week. The first one is not going to be graded for accuracy. It's like an A for effort type of situation. It's an assessment to see before you even have this class how you talk about film. So I'm going to be grading you on how seriously you take it. Like, don't BS me, okay? But it's not like there's like a right or wrong way to do it. You are going to need to watch an episode. It's an episode of a show called Black Mirror, which isn't like a TV show that has like serial episodes. It's like their bottle episodes. So it's like basically their episodes are like short movies, which is why I chose it. And that is on e-reserve. So you can log into the campus e-reserves, watch that episode, and then you take this very short survey worth 5 points and you just answer some questions about it. You need to do a syllabus quiz, which is going to ask you questions about things I'm talking about in this video right now. And then as soon as I get done talking about the syllabus, I've got a couple of just broad things to say about this class. And your first content quiz is on there. So let me talk about quizzes now. Actually, let me say, do I want to? Yeah. Um, so notice here that your grade is composed, so you've got 100 points of 200 points. 50% of your course grade is based on these quizzes. These quizzes are they're kind of like the daily assignment in this class. We meet once a week and we've got screenings and lecture, and I'm going to be giving you quizzes. Now, quiz might not be the right word for it. Essentially, I pass out a sheet of paper in class, although this week it's going to be online, but normally you'll get a sheet of paper and then I'm going to be going through my lecture, and you can pretty much get most of the answers you need for these quizzes if you just pay attention to my lecture. So they're kind of like attendance quizzes. They're kind of like attention checks, if you will. It's not a guarantee that you're going to get, they're all worth 10 points. It's not a guarantee that you're going to get all 10 points every time. But the idea is like if you can just focus on what I'm saying to you, then you can pretty much get a good grade. But here's an important point here. Look how it says 10 out of 10 or 10, whatever. You need 10 points from 10 quizzes. There's going to be more than 10 quizzes offered. I think there's like 13 times that we're going to be meeting for like a lecture. That means that if you miss class for any reason, and you don't get one of these quizzes, then it doesn't necessarily hurt your grade. Because let's say you get a zero for it. Well, okay, I'm only going to be counting 10 quizzes though. So let's say you show up to 12 classes, you get 12 quiz grades, and then you don't show up to one and you get a zero. The zero doesn't even count. I'm going to drop that one, and I'm going to drop your two lowest quiz grades because you came to 12 instead of 10. Okay. I'll keep trying to explain this, but that's sort of, it's telling you about the attendance policy too. So long as you can just show up to 10 classes, you can get all 100 of those points. The other big component of your grade here you can see is these motion picture show and tell analyses. These are short written posts where I'm going to have you integrate different film related vocabulary. Some from the lectures, but you can bring in your own too. And you're just going to analyze a scene that you find, like something that we don't cover in class. You're going to have to pick your own movie scene and kind of analyze it in like a short, maybe like 3 paragraph post. And you post that to a discussion board. So that's like the writing assignment for this class. There are two of these, but I'm going to offer three. So it's the same thing as the quizzes, right? They're each worth 35 points. So you need to only do two of them to get like 70 points out of it, okay? If you do three, I'll drop your lowest one. So let's say you don't do well on one of the writing assignments. Well, that's not great, but you have a chance to do better if you really need to, and you could do the third one. So for that reason, I recommend you at least do one and two, and then you can decide whether or not you do the third. But let's say that you forgot to do the first one. I mean, hopefully you won't forget about it. But if you forget to do the first one and you get a zero, there's still hope for you because there's still two more opportunities to do it. And then at the end of the semester, there's going to be another writing assessment, just like the first one. I make it worth a little bit more because to incentivize people to do it. But it whatever. We'll talk about that when we get there. Um, okay, so attendance, like, so I just kind of previewed this talking about the quizzes. It's like it's a little it seems a little tricky, but it's not. On one hand, there's like no attendance policy in this class, in that I don't ever need to see an excuse for an absence. You can miss class for any reason, whether it's a good reason or a bad reason, and everybody's treated the same in this class. That includes university sanctioned absences, that includes health issues, whatever. Um, if you cannot come to class for any reason, then you will probably miss an LPA. But that might not matter. That will only matter if you miss more than 3 classes. Okay? And at that point, it's kind of on you, because if you know that you're going to have university sanctioned absences, then you need to sort of plan ahead for those. If you might not know if you're going to become deathly ill. I understand that. But you should still sort of plan for that, meaning plan for certain emergencies. Try not to use up all of your absences at the beginning of the semester. Um, you never know what's going to happen. And I know, like, you're still like, oh, but, well, not most of you are thinking that this is very generous. And thank you, you're right. This is a great policy. But for those of you who are thinking, oh, but that's not fair because I have a good excuse. And yeah, I missed like these classes for bad. The truth is, there's one attendance policy at WVU. It's hard to find where WVU publishes these things, but you can link on it if you want. That is kind of like, if you know that you're going to have to be absent for more than 15% of a class anyway, then you shouldn't be taking the class this semester. And I do believe that. The class only meets once a week. I'm really not asking you to do much at all, except come, listen, write down answers from the lecture, and watch some movies. And if you can't do that for at least like, and really, if you ended up missing 3 classes, that would actually be 23% of the entire course. So for whatever reason it is, at that point, if you're going to have to miss more than that, we might have to talk about, maybe you taking a class in a different semester or something like that. This isn't an issue for most people, but I just want to make it really clear that there is a lot of flexibility, but you also just want to expect the unexpected. Okay, another just completely different issue I just want to bring up because it does get confusing. Because I have all this flexibility, let me just go back here, where I'm like, oh, you need to do 10 out of 13, or you need to do 2 out of 3. eCampus can't really calculate your grade accurately, because think about it like this. Like, let's say you get a zero on your first show and tell analysis because you don't turn it in. eCampus is going to be like, boo, you got a zero, so now your grade percentage is so low. But eCampus doesn't know that you can just make it, you can just do the other two and it's that grade is going to get dropped. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like, it doesn't have the understanding of the flexibility in order to calculate your grade in a way that makes sense. And sometimes that can make your grade look better than it is because maybe you do more quizzes than are actually going to be counted. So it looks higher than it actually is, you know? So for this reason, I really want you to just try to focus on calculating your own grade. I post a video on eCampus that's kind of like this, where I just sit there with an Excel sheet and I show you how I calculate your grade to kind of help you if you're a little bit confused by it. But you don't have to watch that video, but I will just say, just be cautious and understand that eCampus doesn't really know how to calculate your grade either. Um, the last thing I want to say about the syllabus and stuff is like we're going to be watching a lot of different stuff this semester. Even the stuff that you don't watch, I'll give you a little trigger warning right now or explicit content warning. I admit I use a lot of curse words. I don't know where that comes from. I'll have to talk to my therapist about it. I love cursing. It just feels good. I hope I do not offend anyone. I don't curse at people. I'm not that kind of person at all, but I do use some very colorful language. Never a slur or anything like that, just colorful. Um, and so there's a lot of that in the movies that we watch. The first movie we're going to be watching is The Shining, which is a well-known horror movie. That said, and I'll say this in class too, it's not like a Saw movie. It's psychological horror, which means that it's not gory. It's is there some violence in it? Yes, but it's no different than the violence that you would see in any other sort of a television drama that you might be watching. That said, if you're watching television dramas, like bad things happen. There's naked people and there's blood and there's, I really do not want to minimize it. The way I feel about trigger warnings is they're called trigger warnings because a lot of times people don't know what they're going to be triggered by. So you just kind of want to give people warnings that something could hit them in the wrong way. And I will try to do that whenever possible. But I will say it does get tricky because we watch so many different things in this class that I can't always remember. So for that reason, I also want to encourage you that if there's something that you're really concerned about, and you want to be like, hey, Dr. E, like, there's not gonna uh, if I'm like get squeamish like if there's any sort of like I don't know rape scenarios or whatever, and I'll think about sort of like what's coming up or whatever, like it'll just kind of cue me and I'll help in whatever way I can to let you know what's coming up. I don't think that the point is to tell people that they don't have to watch certain things. It's more of I want to make sure that you feel like, oh, shoot, I know that there's going to be some like crazy stuff that we're going to be watching. So maybe I want to sit closer to the exit in case I want to like, leave for a minute or something like that. It's more like that. So anyway, point is I want to help, but help me help you too. So all right. We're done with the syllabus part of it. Okay. Now this is just sort of, I just want to talk like very generally kind of about what this class is about. Most of you probably have an idea in your head and it's probably pretty accurate. Weird that we call it like motion pictures. Like it sounds like we're like, oh, we're going to the talkies or like it's like so old school. One of the things I like about it is like it really does encapsulate exactly what it is. We're going to have a history lecture at the beginning talking about how like yeah, I mean it's like we had pictures and they were still and then all of a sudden somebody started to make them move. They became motion pictures. They were moving images. And I do, think this applies really broadly. Not all the time, but a lot of the stuff that we are going to talk about this semester, even though we're going to mostly focus on um, film and television, uh, a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about applies to all sorts of motion pictures, TikToks, um, interactive gaming, like some of the, like I said, it's not going to be like a huge focus, but even some of the stuff that we're going to talk about in terms of narrative and storytelling is relevant to those of you who are interested in video games and, those types of motion pictures. So um, this is definitely a film class, but I hope that you'll see that motion pictures are, have some common features that, this stuff will apply to more. more broadly. Um, I want you to note that, as I mentioned before, I'm a professor of communication studies. And it's true, I study the media, but then the question is like, well, why is media under in a department like communication studies? And the reason for that is because, media is considered it's a channel of communication. So it's something that we communicate to other people through. Right now, I'm communicating to you through video, right? Like, so there's a channel, just like when you're talking on the phone, there's a channel. And one of the things I think is really interesting, and you're gonna hear me talk about this a lot, is just how um, people, because we're exposed to these moving images throughout our lifetime. I mean, think about it. You can't remember as far back as you've been watching, television, right? Sesame Street or Barney or like whatever it is, right? It's like those memories go back to as far as you can remember. And we've been watching these things, and what happens is we end up in the same way that we acquire language, that we communicate with each other with words. We acquire language to understand cinema, to understand these motion pictures. There's different rules, like, in language has grammar and oops. Speaking of TV, sorry, that's my best friend, so I use the Golden Girls thing. Sorry, I should call her back. So we have, just like we have rules for the words, the things that we say, and when, if you take a foreign language class, right, they're always trying to teach you the new grammatic structure. In this class, we focus on what those rules are for cinema, and also so how those rules get broken and what that communicates to us, right? But it's really kind of neat when you think about it that even though if you were to talk to somebody who'd never seen a movie before, they probably wouldn't have the understanding. But all of us are going to be able to watch the same thing and understand what's going on because we understand how editing works and we understand what lighting, certain types of lighting or certain music communicates, right? Like we know what the Jaws music, dun done communicates. And that is why I think this class on film appreciation is rightly situated in communication studies. Um, the other thing cinema is, besides just like this language, and we're going to get into this too, like I said, the next lecture is going to be all about the first one. Cinema is also, it's got intersections with history. We look at film and television as historical document. Towards the end of the semester, we're going to talk about The Sopranos, for instance. And The Sopranos was a great show, but more, importantly, it also reflected something about its time, and it set the stage for the history of television to follow after it. Cinema is technology. So a lot of the themes, especially when we talk about genres, we're going to be talking about is how when we have different types of technology, it allows us to tell different types of stories. I'll talk about how, the fantasy genre didn't really, and comic book superheroes, they didn't really become very popular until we had like the technology like CGI to really tell those types of stories. So it's, intertwined with sort of like our technology as well. And of course, it's art. This is a film appreciation class. It is supposed to be about being able to sort of walk through the cinema landscape. And even if you don't, this is a bit, even if you don't like a particular film, to kind of be able to appreciate what it's done or how difficult it was or how revolutionary it was, whatever the case is. It's not it is a piece of art. It's a product of it's a human creation, and being able to understand it as such is kind of what we're here for. Okay, so what's the difference between appreciation and enjoyment, though? Enjoyment is like when you have a good time. Okay. So enjoyment is, oh my gosh, I had such a long day at work. Gosh, all I want to do is come home and watch 90 Day Fiance. I actually don't like those types of shows. My husband loves them. I'm not a reality TV person, but I just want to come home and like be entertained by somebody else's misery, kind of like a Schadenfreude thing. It's like, not to say that those things can't be appreciated too, but enjoyment is like when we're choosing something out of hedonism, when we're trying to we want something to make us feel good. Appreciation is can also be enjoyment. These things aren't mutually exclusive, but it's more about respect and admiration than it is about, or just sort of understanding contextually where something fits. Then maybe like think about it in terms of painting. I might see a painting, like a really abstract painting, and I might not want that in my home at all. Like I'd be like, that does not go with my decor. It actually makes me feel very unsettled. But sometimes art that makes us feel really unsettled, um, we can appreciate how it does that. We can really admire the fact that it has that kind of power, and then we can study what are the elements of that piece of art that make us feel that way. So anyway, the one of the reasons I like to bring this up, I have this was a couple semesters ago. This is actually like a real excerpt from a teaching evaluation that somebody gave me, where they're like, the class was fine. Some of the things we learned were interesting and beneficial, but some of the classes were just so boring. I liked watching The Shining and analyzing the film. I thought it was interesting and good, blah, blah, blah. But then they were like, the movie adaptation that we watched and the Sesame Street documentary was actually the worst thing I have ever seen in my life. Okay, this is a little bit hyperbolic. If it's any consolation, I have gotten very good teaching evaluations in this class. This was an excessively bad one, but I am highlighting it because this person clearly was more into the enjoyment aspect than the appreciation thing. And, I get it. I am sorry, but sometimes you're not necessarily going to like everything we watch. The Sesame Street documentary was really not the worst thing in the world. But if it's any consolation, you're not going to watch that one. But that is the difference, right? This student is like very much focused on like what they enjoyed and what they didn't, and that is normal, but it's not necessarily appreciation. Um, Oh my gosh, this I'm so embarrassed. Oh no, I did get it right. Okay, good, good. I forgot what day of the week this class is on. Okay, so that's all I want to say now. So we got through the first lecture. So here's what you got to do. So you got to take your syllabus quiz. It's on eCampus. You need to do this before we meet in class next week, which is going to be Wednesday. So it's going to be the second Wednesday of the semester, Wednesday, January 21st. Then you need to watch the Black Mirror episode Nosedive. You can get this on Netflix too if you have a Netflix account, if you don't want to go on e-reserves, but it's on e-reserves. It's about an hour long. Watch that episode, and then you're going to take a survey that just asks you questions about your impressions of it. Okay. The survey won't take you more than 10 minutes. You need to do that also before next Wednesday. And then you need to take this content quiz. It'll be quiz number one, and it's just going to be on this stuff that I just talked about in terms of appreciation. Um, yeah, so that is it. I'm just like double checking. And then you again, you'll see like actually how everything goes. We will meet in class at 4 p.m. on Wednesday. And then I'll give you your first paper quiz, and that'll be quiz number two. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Drop me an email. I'll probably send a couple, at least one reminder when next week for people that just added the class. Sorry, it's a little bit annoying, but at least we don't have to meet in person for the first week. So I will see you next week. All right. Bye. Looking forward to the semester.